Hello everybody, and today I'm going to read Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy Part 2. So let's get started. Hi everybody, and welcome to the second half of Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy. This comic book should give you a pretty good update on our story so far. The sad truth about Captain Underpants. Once upon a time, there were two cool kids named George and Harold. We were mecha groovy. Me too. But unfortunately, they had a mean principal named Mr. Krupp. Blah, blah, blah. So one day they hypnotized him with a 3D hypno ring. You will obey our every command. Yes, sirs. Mr. Krupp became under their control. You are now a monkey. Ooh, 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 ha, ha, ha. But they made a terrible mistake. You are now Captain Underpants. Okay. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, 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 ha. Tra-la-la. It was funny until he jumped out the window. Hey, come back here. No way. Mr. Krupp really thought he was a real superhero. He got in all kinds of trouble. One time, he almost got killed by a dandelion. Help! The George stole some superpower juice from a UFO, and he gave it to him. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Superpower juice. And Mr. Krupp got superpowers. Ta-da! Now he can fly and stuff. Here we go again. Now whenever Mr. Krupp hears someone snap their fingers, blah blah blah, snap, he turns into Captain Underpants. Tra-la-la. And whenever CU gets water on his head, he turns back into Mr. Krupp. Blah blah blah. So remember, don't snap your fingers around Mr. Krupp. But that's only the first part of the story. Read on. Well, okay, there's this other kid in our school named Melvin Sneely. I'm a dumb nerd. Melvin invented a combino thingy that morphs stuff together. First, he combined his pet hamster, Sulu, with a robot. Sulu, robot. Eureka! I've created the world's first bionic hamster. Next, he tried to combine himself with a robot, but he sneezed at the last second. Achoo! And he accidentally got combined with a robot, and his boogers, zap, became the bionic booger boy. I'm a dumb nerd. Uh-oh. And then one time he got a cold. Achoo! Then he got mad and turned into a monster. Then he ate up Captain Underpants. But Sulu the bionic hamster beat him up. Then Melvin's parents came and reversed the combino thingy. And they zapped him away and blew the boogers. Zap! Boom! Now Mr. Krupp and Melvin were safe. But something was wrong with them. I'm a dumb nerd. Blah, blah, blah. Then the boogers came to life and smashed the combino thingy. Smash! And the chase was on. Yeah, 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 yeah. Lag, lag. The end of part 1. I did my best to voice all the characters. Chapter 1. Okay, George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hudson. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and bad haircut. Remember that now. National Fine Arts Academy. This is Mr. Krupp, Melvin Sneedly, and Sulu the Bionic Hamster. Mr. Krupp is the one on the left, the underwear and the bald head. Melvin is the one on the right with the bow tie and the glasses. Sulu the Bionic Hamster is the hamstery-looking one in the middle with the laser eyeballs, the macro-hydraulic jumpatronic legs, the super somnambulating mini-automo arms, the virtually indestructible flexogromonic endoskeleton, and the twin-turbo 3000 SP5 Kung Fu titanium lithium alloy processor. Remember that now, too. And these are the Ridiculous Robo Boogers. They're the wildest, most disgusting, and most terrifying creatures on ever to drip across the face of the earth. Even their names were horrible. Monsters, monikers, the sound of which would drive madness into the hearts of the bravest of heroes. If you dare to know their nightmarishly deplorable names, I'll tell you. But don't blame me if you have to sleep with a nightlight for the rest of your life. Their names were, from left to right, Carl, Trixie, and Frankenbooger. See? I told you they were scary names. National Fart Academy. Nice. Carl, Trixie, and Frankenbooger each bellowed out terrifying, ear-piercing screams of unstoppable fury as they chased our heroes down the city streets. Finally, the Robo Boogers cornered everyone in a dead-end alley. The three Felgum fiends oozed closer and closer until at last they leaped toward their prey. The situation had become so frightening that George, Harold, Melvin, and Mr. Krupp closed their eyes tightly and waited for the terrifying sound of their own inevitable demise. Okay, I think I said that right. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Instead of hearing inevitable demise type sounds, our heroes heard of something quite different. You see, at the very last second, Sulu the Bionic Hamster stretched open his flexogromonic jaw and shoved the three boogery behemoths into his mouth. Sulu's bionic cheeks swelled to capacity as he raised his furry head toward the sky. Then, with the force of a lunar shuttle liftoff, Sulu shot the three slimy villains into space. Spitooty! 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 And then the three ridiculous Robo Boogers sailed through the sky like cannonballs. No time at all, they left Earth's atmosphere and began sailing toward Uranus. Uranus. Get it? The terrifying battle was over. Wow, that was a really quick story, said Harold. This is going to be our shortest adventure ever. Ain't that the truth? Said George. Chapter 2, it ain't. Unfortunately for Judge and Harold, their adventure had only just begun. As everyone walked back to the school, a confusing argument got underway. I want my hamster back, said Mr. Krupp. Your hamster, said George. First of all, he's our hamster now. And second of all, he never belonged to you. He belonged to Melvin. I don't care who he belongs to, Melvin interrupted. Hamsters aren't allowed in school, especially not in my school. I'm giving all three of you bubs a detention for bringing that furry beast into your classroom. You can't give us a detention, said Harold. You're a kid just like us. Suddenly, Mr. and Mrs. Sneedley came running toward them. Melvin, you're all right, cried Mrs. Sneedley. We're so happy you're safe, son, cried Mr. Sneedley. Mommy, Papa, cried Mr. Krupp. He dashed at his parents with open arms. The sight of a bald grown man in his underwear running toward them made Mrs. Sneedley scream in horror. Hey, what's the big idea? Yelled Miss Sneedley. It's me, Papa, cried Mr. Krupp. Don't you recognize your own son? Get away from us, you weirdo! Mrs. Sneedley yelled as she hit Mr. Krupp with her purse. Melvin ignored the commotion as he walked past them all and went into the school. Dun, 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 dun. Melvin stormed upstairs and headed for the school office. Everyone except Miss Anthrope had already gone home for the day, and she was getting ready to leave too. Just where do you think you're going? Shouted Melvin. Miss Anthrope turned and stared in shock at the fourth grader standing behind her. What did you just say? She cried in a voice that was rapidly becoming a scream. Who do you think you are? I'm the guy who's gonna fire your honey if you don't give me my copy. Now! Yelled Melvin. Normally, school secretaries don't really have the authority to hang a child from a coat hook by his underwear, but today had been a particularly stressful day for Miss Anthrope. She had been covered in snot, carried through town by a rampaging robotic monster, and worst of all, forced to chaperone an elementary school field trip. Now it was payback time. Chapter 3. Mr. Melvin and Kruppy the Kid. Miss Anthrope collected her things and left for home, grumbling under her breath as she passed George and Harold in the hallway. The two boys could hear Melvin's angry shouts coming from down the hall, so they went into the office to investigate. While they were getting Melvin off the hook, Mr. Krupp ran into the office, sweaty and out of breath. You guys have gotta help me, he cried. My mom and dad are trying to kill me. Has the world gone mad? Relax, Einstein, said George calmly, and put on some clothes. George and Harold had already figured out what was going on, so they decided to explain the situation to Melvin and Mr. Krupp. You see, said Harold, after you guys got morphed together by the Commandotron 2000, they switched the batteries around and separated you. But for some reason, it switched your brains around too. Now Mr. Krupp's brain is inside Melvin's body, and Melvin's brain is inside Mr. Krupp's body. That's a bunch of bunk, yelled Melvin. Take a look and see for yourself, said George. He pulled a full-length mirror in front of Mr. Krupp and Melvin. They looked at themselves in astonishment. I'm a kid again, said the guy who looked like Melvin but had Mr. Krupp's brain. And I'm old and fat and bald and ugly, cried the guy who looked like Mr. Krupp but had Melvin's brain. I have bad breath and creepy nose hairs and hey, yelled the guy who looked like Melvin but had Mr. Krupp's brain. Now at this point, you might be saying to yourself, dang, this book is getting confusing. Now don't worry, this will all get cleared up by the end of chapter 17. But for now, let's rename the two characters who have the right brains but in the wrong bodies. But for now, let's rename the two characters who have the right brains and the wrong body, shall we? Let's call the guy who looks like Mr. Krupp, who has Melvin's Sneeze's brain, Mr. Melvin, and we'll call the kid who looks like Melvin Snealy, who has Mr. Krupp's brain, Cruppy the Kid. Please refer to the handy X-ray chart below in case you get mixed up. Melvin's brain, Mr. Krupp's brain, Mr. Melvin, Cruppy the Kid. Chapter 4. Things get worse. Cruppy the Kid climbed into his chair and demanded to know what was to be done about this mix-up. I could solve this problem right away if I still had my Combinatron 2000, said Mr. Melvin sheepishly, but it got smashed in the last book. Well, start building a new one, bub, shouted Cruppy the Kid. Okay, why not, Mr. Melvin? Well, it'll take about 6 months. 6 months? Screamed Cruppy the Kid. I can't go around looking like a kid for 6 months. I've got a school to run, Buster. Sorry, Mr. Melvin whimpered, but building a circular combiner is extremely difficult. It takes time. It's not easy like building a robot or a time machine or a photoatomic transongulating ectophantriplutarnic zanziptomizer. I think I'm saying it right. That's the best I could say it. Hey, wait a second, said George. Did you just say building a time machine was easy? Yeah, said Melvin. It just takes a day or two. Why? Well, why don't you just build a time machine, said George. Then you can go back in time before the Combinatron 2000 got smashed, grab it, and bring it back to the present time. Mr. Melvin thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. I got it, he said, snapping his fingers. I'll build a time machine, go back in time to before the Combinatron 2000 got smashed, grab it, and bring it back to the... Hey, what the heck is he doing? Everyone turned and looked at Cruppy the Kid, who had just stripped down to his underwear and was now tying a red curtain around his neck. Oh no, screamed George. Get some water, get some water! Shirt, shorts, shoes, socks, bow tie. Harold ran out to the drinking fountain, but he was too late. Cruppy the Kid shouted a triumphant tra-la-la, then turned and flew out the window. Chapter 5. Things get worse. Did you guys just see that? Cried Mr. Melvin. Cruppy the Kid just flew out the window. He flew. Yeah, we know, said George with a sigh. That's amazing, said Mr. Melvin. He must think he's Captain Underpants or something. Or could our principal really be Captain Underpants? Well, duh, said Harold. But Mr. Krupp doesn't look anything like Captain Underpants, said Mr. Melvin frantically. Captain Underpants is bald, and Mr. Krupp usually has hair. Hey, I know. Maybe Mr. Krupp wears a toupee? I thought you were supposed to be in the gifted program, said George. But how can he fly? Where did he get his superpowers? Asked Mr. Melvin. It's a long story, said Harold. Mr. Melvin calmed down a bit, walked confidently across the room, and sat in the principal's chair. He leaned back and smiled a devilish grin. "Well, why don't you go ahead and tell me all about it?" said Mr. Melvin. "I've got all the time in the world." Chapter 6. Things Get Worse Arrest. George and Harold had no choice but to come clean. They told Mr. Melvin the whole story of Captain Underpants, how they had hypnotized Mr. Krupp, how he drank the alien superpower juice, and how his superpowers must have somehow gotten transferred into Melvin's body. Into Melvin's body, along with Mr. Krupp's brain. While George and Harold were talking, the smile on Mr. Melvin's face grew wider and wider, and eviler. "What are you smiling about?" said George. "This is serious." "Yeah," said Harold. "And we're all in big trouble if we don't switch things back to normal." "Correction," said Mr. Melvin. "You guys are in big trouble. All my troubles are over. I, Melvin Sneely, am gonna get back into my old body, but keep those superpowers for myself. I'm gonna become the world's first superpowered kid." "Hey, you can't do that," said Harold. "I can do whatever I want," snapped Mr. Melvin. "I'm in charge now. I look just like the principal, so I'm gonna make the rules. And you guys are gonna follow them. Or else. Or else what?" George demanded. "Or else," snarled Mr. Melvin, "I'll order your teachers to give you guys 12 hours of homework every night for the next 8 years. That shut George and Harold up. Mr. Melvin's first order of the day was to make a new comic book about the world's first superpowered kid, Melvin Sneedly. "Give me a really cool name," said Mr. Melvin, "like Big Melvin or Mystery Melvin." "Mystery Melvin," said George and Harold in disbelief. "And make up a story where I defeat George and Harold and become the world's greatest superhero. And you better not make me look stupid either." "Okay. But we can't make a comic book right now," cried Harold. "We've got to chase after Captain Cruppy, the Underpants kid." "You can chase after him all you want," said Mr. Melvin, "after you make that comic book. Now get going. I got a time machine built." Chapter 7. The Purple Potty. Mr. Melvin went out and brought all the things he needed to build his time machine. Now he just needed a place to build it. He wanted someplace quiet and private. Someplace empty and secluded. A room that nobody ever used. "I've got it," he cried. "Our school library. Library. Books. Science is golden. Mad scientists minimal." And the library at Jerome Hartman's elementary school had once been a wonderful place of knowledge and learning. And a few years back, the librarian, his singer brains, had begun banning most of the books. Now, the library was filled with only rows of empty bookshelves and posters that warned of the potential subversive dangers of reading. It was the perfect place to hatch an evil plan. Mr. Melvin pushed his cart into the dusty, cobwebby room and flicked on the lights. "Welcome," said Miss Singerbrains. "Have you come out to Have you come to check out the book? No, said Mr. Melvin. I need a large box like a phone booth or something. There's a purple portable potty down in the basement, said Miss Singerbrains. That'll do, said Mr. Melvin said. Go get it for me. I can't carry that thing up 3 flights of stairs all by myself, cried Miss Singerbrains. All right, said Mr. Melvin. I'll help you. I want you to stop reading. Challenge books, not mine. You'll ruin your eyes. Only schnooks read books. But reading might offend you. Why take a chance? Mr. Melvin supervised while Miss Singerbrains carried the heavy potty to the top of the treacherous steps. Good job, said Mr. Melvin. Now go clean out your desk. You're fired. Fired? Cried Miss Singerbrains. What for? For the rest of your life. Chapter 8. Meanwhile, back in outer space, a team of scientists working at the Pequot Order of Professional Space and Interplanetary Explorers, POOPSI, were on their way to investigate the planet Uranus when they came across something that was very strange. Okay. Major Buzz Tomsky and his crew had just discovered a bizarre clutter of what appeared to be robots and toilets resting on the planet's surface. Hey, that's from book 2. The astronauts were so busy looking at their monitor that they didn't notice the 3 slimy, squishy booger thingies speeding toward their spaceship. Splat, smack, sploot, poopsie. Chapter 9. Ground Control to Major Tomsky. Suddenly, a very concerned voice came across the Poopsie's space phone. What's going on up there, bub? Asked Ground Control. We're okay, said Major Tomsky as he unzipped the cockpit window screen for a better look. But it appears as our ship has just been splattered by 3 unidentified squishy thingies. That does it, said Ground Control. This mission is just getting too strange. I want you guys to turn that ship around and come back home. Will do, said Major Tomsky. He pushed in the clutch and made a U-turn, and in no time at all, the Poopsie shuttle was heading back to Earth. Now, with 3 giggling stowaways hanging on for the long ride home. Chapter 10. Me and Mr. Melvin. The next day, Mr. Melvin was putting the finishing touches on his time machine when he'd heard cries of laughter out in the hallway. He opened the library and saw a group of 3rd graders happily reading George and Harold's newest comic book. Mr. Melvin stomped down the hall, grabbed the comics out of their hands, and gasped in horror. What the? He screamed as he glared at the comics book cover. Chapter 11. Captain Underpants and the War of the Willy Wonder by George Beard and Harold Hutchins. Captain Underpants and the War of the Willy Wonder Nerd. A gripping tale of action and horror by George Beard and Harold Hutchins. Once upon a time, there was a nuclear power plant. It had a lot of waste. Nuclear waste removal. The waste was supposed to be taken to a dump One barrel fell off. The barrel rolled down a hill and landed in a cotton field. Soon the cotton soaked up the nuclear waste and began to grow. Then one time the cotton got harvested. These cotton balls sure are heavy. Yeah, it's big too. Cotton. Then they took it to the underwear factory. Bub's underwear factory. Tim's cotton. The cotton got made into underwear. Hey, it's glowing. Soon, look, Melvin, there is a sale on glow-in-the-dark underwear. Duh, me want some, mommy, duh. Soon, Melvin had his very own pair. Now you're the coolest kid ever. Duh, I sure am. But that night, the radioactive underwear made him grow. Dolls are cool. I love unicorns. Dolly Dreamhouse. What the heck? And grow, Melvin says. That next morning, Melvin woke. Crash. The next morning, Melvin woke up. Crash. Yawn. So he walked to school. Duh, I'm grumpy. Duh. Boom, 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 boom. Sir, a giant nerd is attacking the city. Called the army and stuff. Soon the army and stuff arrived. Then there was a big war. I'm telling. The Wonder Nerd picked up a tank and threw it. Meanwhile, at a nearby school, you guys are pathetic. You're worthless and weak. Crash! Help! Wonder Nerd just threw a tank and squished somebody. Oh no, who was it? Principal, the gym teacher. Thank goodness, I thought it was somebody important. This looks like a job for Captain Underpants. Zoom. Hey, Wonder Nerd, quit it. I'm not a nerd. I'm cool. My mommy said so. Captain Underpants flew around and saw a tag on Wonder Nerd's undies. Warning. This underpants may shrink when washed. Oh, hi, got you. Okay, do whatever you want, but please don't dunk me in the lake. Huh? If you can kill me, but please don't dunk me in the lake. I pray it. Oh yeah, maybe I will dunk you in the lake. Oh heavens, no. I'll show you. No way. Ha, get ready. Oh man. Hey, what the? Lake. Ah, my underpanties got wet. It's shrinking. Here, birdie. Ah, hooray for Captain Underpants. Wow, it's off to nerd jail with you. Tra-la-la, moral. Always buy pre-shrunk underwear. Treehouse Comics. Chapter 12. Mad Mr. Melvin. Mr. Melvin was furious. He marched into the office and turned on the school intercom. George Beard and Harold Hutchins, he shouted over the loudspeakers. Meet Mr. Mr. Krupp in the school library right now. We have a library? Said George. After about 20 minutes of searching, George and Harold finally came across a room they had never seen before. And they entered cautiously, stepping quietly past rows and rows of empty bookshelves until they met up with Mr. Krupp. I told you guys to give me a cool name and not to make me look stupid, Mr. Melvin screamed, clutching the comic book in his sweaty hand. Oops, said George. I thought you said to give you a stupid name and to not make you look cool. Yeah, said Harold. It was an honest misunderstanding. Mr. Melvin threw the comic book to the ground, then led George and Harold over to the purple potty. Remember when I had that great idea to build a time machine? Asked Mr. Melvin. Actually, said George, that was my... Well, here it is, Mr. Melvin interrupted triumphantly. And you two smarty pantses are gonna test it out for me. Huh? Said Harold. I'm saying you kids back in time to the day before yesterday, said Melvin. And you better not return until you've got my Combinotron 2000. Cool, said George. I've always wanted to travel through time. Mr. Melvin had a great deal of instructions for George and Harold before they left on their journey. Though the instructions were quite boring, it would have benefited the boys if they had paid attention instead of switching the letters around on a nearby bulletin board. Mr. Melvin spoke at length about the workings of the time machine and the proper etiquette of time travel. You must be very careful that nobody sees you on your journey, Mr. Melvin said. If they do, just zap them with my new invention, the Forget-Your-Mallet 2000. Check out our school's big internet website at www.jhes.com. This will erase everything in their short-term memory, and they won't remember ever seeing you. Mr. Melvin had also built a fake Combinotron 2000 to switch with the real one. Finally, Mr. Melvin gave George and Harold a very important warning. Whatever you do, it is very important that you don't use this time machine 2 days in a row. It needs to cool off every other day, or else it might open an opposite-dimensional reality rift that could destroy the entire planet. Purple Potty Company. Fake Combinotron 2000. Forget-Your-Mallet 2000. George and Harold started laughing at their new message on the bulletin board. Hey, Mr. Melvin shouted. Have you kids even heard one word I said? Yeah, said George. We gotta switch the thing with the thingy. And if anybody sees us, said Harold, we'll zap them with the witchamajiggy. Don't worry, we've got it. George and Harold stepped into the purple potty as Mr. Melvin closed the door behind them. Harold set the controller for the day before yesterday. Then George pulled the chain. Suddenly there was a brilliant flash of green light, and the purple potty disappeared. Not forever. Chapter 13. The day before yesterday. After a few moments of flashing light, everything became quiet. Harold opened the potty door and peeked out into the darkened library. Cautiously, the two time travelers stepped into the library window and looked out. There they saw Melvin's father, Mr. Sneedly, zapping the Bionic Booger Boy with a blast from the Combinotron 2000. Been there, said Harold. Done that, said George. Been there, said George. Done that, said Harold. In the corner, George and Harold found a coat and a hat, which belonged to Miss Singerbrains. Immediately, they thought of a plan. Harold put on the coat and the hat and climbed onto George's shoulders. I sure hope this disguise works, said Harold. It better, said George. We can't risk letting them recognize us. Soon, George and Harold were at the scene of the action. Mr. Sneedly had just fired the Combinotron 2000 a second time, and now the boys were ready to make their move. Excuse me, Mr. Sneedly, said Harold, trying very hard to sound like a grown-up. I'd like to present unto you the most brilliant test the science god the whole wide world award. Really? Cried Miss Neely. It's always been my dream to win that award. But first, said Harold, I'd like to have a look at the combino thingy. Okay, said Mr. Sneedley. He handed Harold the combined Ultron 2000 and smiled proudly. Said Harold, I need to take a look at it behind those bushes over there. George and Harold wobbled over to the bushes, unbuttoned their coat, and switched the two combinotrons. They wobbled back and handed the fake combinotron 2000 to Mr. Sneedley. Everything seems to be in order, said Harold. But before we present the award, we'd like to get a photo of you. Who's we? Asked Mr. Sneedley. I'd like to get a photo of you, said Harold nervously. George stuck his hand out of the coat and held up the Forget-You-Mal 2000. Say cheese, said Harold. Mr. Sneedley looked down in shock at George's hand. Then George pressed the button. Flash! Suddenly, Mr. Sneedley forgot everything that had just happened. Dazed and confused, he stumbled back and rejoined his wife just in time for the Robo Boogers to come to life and smash the fake Combinotron 2000. Meanwhile, George and Harold were running all their might back to the library carrying the real Combinotron 2000. That was so easy, laughed George. Yeah, said Harold. We sure got lucky this time. But when they reached the library door, George and Harold discovered that they hadn't been quite so lucky after all. What the heck is going on here? Shouted Miss Fingerbrains. I just got back from the restroom and found a portable potty in my library. Harold, said George. Harold, said George. Zap her with the forget-you thingy. Quick! No one's zapping anyone with anything, said Miss Fingerbrains. She grabbed the Forget-You-Mal 2000 out of Harold's hand and yanked the Combinotron 2000 out of George's hands. I'm taking these things to the police right now, she said. Maybe they can sort this mess out. Miss Fingerbrains marched down to the parking lot, got in her car, and began driving to the police station. Well, said Harold, we'll never catch up to her now. Sure we will, said George. All we need are some wings. Why read? Have you burned your books today? Chapter 15. 65 years before the day before yesterday. George and Harold carried a box of saltine crackers off Miss Fingerbrains' desk. Then the two friends stepped inside the purple potty and closed the door. Quickly, George reset the controls and pulled down on the chain. Suddenly, George and Harold were transported back in time to the late Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era, a time when dinosaurs ruled the earth. Cautiously, George and Harold peeked out of the purple potty, which is now nestled precariously in the branches of a tall tree. Here, Chicky, 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 called George. Polly want a cracker? Called Harold as he tossed a handful of saltines into the air. Suddenly, the boys were swarmed by hungry pterodactyls. Before long, a friendly-looking pterodactyl, a Quetzalcoatlus to be exact, swooped down and grabbed some crackers from Harold's hand. "Ah, look," said Harold. "He likes me." "Great," said George. "Let's get him into the time machine and get out of here." Carefully, Harold took the pterodactyl in his hands and carried him into the purple potty. Then the boys closed the door behind them, reset the controls, and pulled down the chain. Suddenly, George and Harold and their new reptilian pal were transformed forward in time to the day before yesterday. The door of the time machine swung open, and the three friends sailed out of the purple potty, through the library window, and up over the town. George looked down on the city streets until finally he located Mrs. Singerbrain's car. "There she is!" George cried. "I sure love our new pterodactyl," said Harold. "I'm going to name him Crackers." Don't give him a name," said George. "We're not keeping him. We're just borrowing him." George, Harold, and Crackers swooped down and landed on Miss Singerbrain's car, which was stopped at a traffic light. Miss Singerbrain screamed in horror. "Wait!" cried George. "There's no reason to be afraid. You're just dreaming." "I'm dreaming?" asked Miss Singerbrain. "Sure, think about it," said Harold. "Purple potties appearing out of nowhere, kids running around with laser zappers, pterosaurs landing on your car. This stuff only happened in dreams." "But gosh, you're right," said Miss Singerbrain. "But it all seems so real." "Well, trust us," said George. "In a few minutes you won't remember any of it." Before long, George, Harold, and Miss Singerbrain were all gliding back to school with their good pal Crackers. The combined Ultron 2000 and Forget Your Mallet 2000 were safe once again. Soon they arrived back at the library. "I'll keep an eye on Miss Singerbrain," said George. "You take that pterodactyl back where you found him." "Ah, can't we keep him?" said Harold. "Asked Harold." "No," said George sternly. "He belongs in his own time. Now take him back." "Aw, man," said Harold. And sadly, Harold carried the Crackers into the purple potty and closed the door. After a few seconds, the time machine disappeared in a flash of light. A half hour later, another flash of green light filled the room, and the purple potty was back. "What took you so long?" asked George. Nothing," said Harold. Did you have any trouble taking Crackers back to his home?" asked George. Not really." "You did take him back to his home, didn't you?" asked George. Sure," said Harold, although he did sound very sure. Quickly, George sat Miss Singerbrain with the Forget Your Mallet 2000 and jumped into the purple potty. And then, with a quick flash of green light, they were gone. Chapter 16. Back to the present. Mr. Melvin was very happy to see his purple potty return to him, and even happier to see his beloved Combinatron 2000. "Now all I need," he said with a sneer, "is to find Captain Underpants." Fortunately, Captain Underpants, who you probably remember looked just like Melvin Sneedley, wasn't too far away. Unfortunately, he spent the last 2 days getting himself into trouble. First, he started off by annoying two old ladies. Captain Underpants had been helping them cross the street, and he heard a little girl crying for a kitten, which was stuck in a tree. Captain Underpants rescued the kitty, but forgot about the old ladies. "Hey!" shouted one of the old ladies. "That flying kid just left us up here in the street. I'm gonna get that kid. It's the last thing I do," said the other old lady. Next, Captain Underpants was soaring above the football field when he encountered an unidentified flying object, which looked suspiciously like a football. It was made of brown leather and had white stitching on the side. Said Captain Underpants. This could be a dangerous UFO. Is he really that dumb? He grabbed it and flew down to the football field where, oddly, the school's football team was having a big game. I don't want anybody to panic, Captain Underpants shouted. I just captured this UFO, so I'm going to take it to the moon, where it can safely be destroyed. And suddenly, the players from the visiting team tackled Captain Underpants, which cost the home team 50 yards and the game. That kid just made us lose our biggest game of the year, shouted Mr. Meaner. I'm gonna get that kid the last thing I do, snarled the quarterback, who's probably this guy. I don't know if a quarterback is one person or more than one person. Finally, Captain Underpants got on the bad side of some skateboarders in the park. He politely pointed out the no skateboarding signs, but the skateboarders refused to go away. So Captain Underpants had no choice but to snap their skateboards in half with his kung fu kicking action. Then it was spankings for everyone. Dude, said one of the skateboarders, that little dude just like duded our dude boards. Dude, said another skateboarder, I'm gonna do that dude if it's the last dude I do. Chapter 17, The Big Switcheroonie. Mr. Melvin ordered George and Harold to stick their heads out the window and call for Captain Underpants. Soon the waistband warrior appeared. Mr. Melvin welcomed the caped hero and asked him to pose for a photo. Well, I'll be delighted, said Captain Underpants. Great, said Mr. Melvin. Put these clothes on and stand over there. At first, Captain Underpants was reluctant to put on the clothes, but he finally agreed. Mr. Melvin, who had worked all afternoon reconfiguring the Combinatron 2000, pressed the start button, then ran and stood beside Captain Underpants. Suddenly, two glowing lasers began encoding the DNA of the two subjects it was about to combine. Zap! Then a burst of brilliant red light shot out of the Combinatron 2000 and reformed a ball of energy between Captain Underpants and Mr. Melvin. They both slid together into the red light and formed a giant glob of fleshy goo. The newly reconfigured Combinatron 2000 then switched polarities and began the process of separating the two human elements. The red ball of light slowly changed to a lovely shade of green. Suddenly there was a blinding flash of light, a quick puff of smoke, and it was all over. Everybody's brains were back where they belonged. Wow, that sure is a weird camera, said Captain Underpants, who now looked like Captain Underpants. Can I take these clothes off now? They're bad for my image. Go right ahead, said Melvin Sneedly, who now looked exactly like Melvin Sneedly. Finally, it looked as if everything was back to normal, but as we all know, looks can be deceiving. Chapter 18, Return of the Ridiculous Robo Boogers. Just then, at the Poopsie space shuttle landed at the Piqua International Airport. It wasn't the smoothing of landings, due to the fact that three robotic boogers had just eaten most of the shell's tail fin and nearly all of its rocket thrusters. Inside the school library, Captain Underpants heard the astronauts' panicked cries coming from the airport. "This looks like a job for me," he shouted. With a mighty tra-la-la, he leaped out the window and fell 3 stories to the ground. Crash! "Hey, I noticed an Easter egg here. There's pillows here, he could have landed on that. There's a trampoline here, he could have landed on that. And there's a stack of hair here that he could have landed on that." Screamed all to mock him. George and Harold screamed and ran downstairs. "Captain Underpants," cried George. "Are you okay?" "Speak to us," cried Harold. Captain Underpants slowly lifted his head in confusion. "Mommy," he said weakly, "my train went swimming in the piano." Meanwhile, over at Piqua International Airport, Carl, Trixie, and Frank and Booger had just finished eating the space shuttle and were now starting to munch on the control tower. The 3 globby gluttons grew bigger and bigger with every enormous bite. "Come on, Captain Underpants," cried George. "Gotta save those people." "But I forgot how to fly," Captain Underpants said sheepishly. "You didn't forget," laughed Melvin, who was now floating above their heads. "You just lost your superpowers. Don't worry, they've been transferred to my body. Now I'm the world's greatest superhero." "Melvin," cried George, "those Robo Boogers came back to Earth. They're attacking people at the airport. You gotta help those people." "I'm not doing a thing until you guys change that comic book," Melvin said. "But there's no time," cried Hero. "Those people need your help now." "Well, you better start drawing then, Art Boy," said Melvin. Chapter 19. Never underestimate the power of underwear. George and Harold begged Melvin to use his superpowers to save the day, but Melvin continued to refuse. Finally, Captain Underpants stepped in. "You may have taken away my superpowers," Waithpin Woody said, "but I still have the power of underwear on my side, and nobody can take that away from me." Captain Underpants turned and ran toward the airport. "Melvin," said George frantically, "if you don't do something, the Robo Boogers are gonna kill Mr. Krupp." "That's not my fault," said Melvin. "You're the ones who wrote that stupid comic book about me. Now change it or else." George and Harold looked at each other. Their choice was simple. Either fight with Captain Underpants and probably die, or give in to the dark side and live. The 2 boys turned and ran to the airport. Chapter 20. Booger Brunch. George and Harold had quickly caught up with Captain Underpants, and soon they were all at the airport witnessing the carnage of the ridiculous Robo Boogers. Captain Underpants shouted out a triumphant "Tra-la-la" from below. Suddenly the 3 Robo Boogers turned toward the familiar sounding voice. Quickly, their laser-guided eyeballs zoomed in on 3 of the heroes who had made their lives so miserable back in Chapter 1. Immediately, the Robo Boogers leaped at George, Harold, and Captain Underpants, and the chase was on. Again. Chapter 21. Cornered. The Robo Boogers continued chasing George, Harold, and Captain Underpants, until at last the 3 fighting friends were cornered at a local shopping center. Everything except fabric softener, the store for all your non-fabric softening you need. Sale. Open 24 hours. in a desperate attempt to save themselves. The brave heroes began taking items from the outside salesman and began throwing them at the snarling beast. George grabbed a pair of of low-fat tennis shoes and and, and tossed them at Trixie. Trixie gobbled them up. And Harold found a delicious tube of wild cherry-flavored hemorrhoid ointment and flung it at Frankenbooger. Frankenbooger swallowed it whole. Captain Underpants picked up a genetically modified organic orange flavored orange. It chucked it at Carl. Carl chewed it up with a smug grin. Suddenly, Carl's laser eyeballs grew incredibly large. The haughty smile on his face turned into a panicked gasp as the wet, gushy snot that covered his body began to dry up and crumble. Huge, crispy buglets shot off his smoldering robotic endoskeleton like green popcorn. "What's going on?" cried Harold. "It's the oranges," cried George. "It's gotta be the vitamin C in these oranges. It's combating the cold and flu that caused these boogers to turn evil." Carl trashed around brutally as more and more of his disintegrating body cracked off and fell to the ground. Finally, the light in his panic-stricken laser eyes slowly went out. He stumbled over and crashed horribly into the parking lot. Carl was dead. They were like, "What the?" She's like, "What the?" He's like, "What the?" Chapter 22. Vitamin See you later. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants quickly began chucking oranges at Trixie and Frankenbooger. But the two remaining Robo Boogers had gotten wise to the power of vitamin C. They ducked, jumped, dodged, and darted, doing whatever they could to avoid being hit by the deadly oranges. "Hey, I got an idea," said Captain Underpants. He grabbed 2 crates of oranges and ran off, while George and Harold continued flinging fruit ferociously. "Where does he think he's going?" said George. "I don't know," said Harold, "but his idea better work. We're running out of oranges." Soon George and Harold were down to their last 2 oranges. They threw them as hard as they could, but alas, the potent projectiles missed their terrifying targets. Trixie, Frank, and Booger grabbed George and Harold and dangled them above their gigantic mouths. They said their goodbyes and almost died, but then a familiar tra-la-la came from somewhere over on the next page. And here it is. The repulsive Robo Boogers dropped George and Harold and stomped over to page 130. There they found Captain Underpants standing at the top of a large novelty toilet on the roof of John's house of toilets. He was shouting tra-la-la and doing a very annoying dance which made the Robo Boogers very, very angry. Chapter 23, The Underpants Dance in Flipperama. Step 1, the wedgie wiggle. Step 2, the toilet top tango. Step 3, the waistband roll. Step 4, the big butt boogie. Chapter 24, Squishies Part 2. Trixie and Frank and Booger had seen enough. They couldn't stand to watch Captain Underpants doing that stupid dance 1 second longer. So he pushed down on the seat of the large novelty toilet to hoist himself up on the roof. Splat! Unfortunately for Trixie and Frankenbooger, they had been so focused on the Underpants dance that they hadn't noticed the 2 crates of oranges placed carefully under the gigantic toilet seat. When they pressed down, the toilet seat crushed the orange crates, spraying delicious vitamin juice all over their big, bad, buggery bodies. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants watches their monsters' arch enemies began decomposing before their very eyes. "What happened to them?" asked Harold. "I gave him a squishy," said Captain Underpants. "It's the latest fad." The Robo Boogers jerked around wildly as the quickly drying snot crumbled off of their smoking robotic endoskeletons. And then, after a few minutes of spinning and screaming, they slowly tumbled to the ground in 2 metallic heaps. Trixie and Frankenbooger were dead. Chapter 25, Big Melvin. Chapter 25, quotation marks, Big Melvin. Soon Ingrid Ashley from Channel 4 Eyewitness News arrived at the scene. "How did you manage to destroy the Robo Boogers?" she asked. "I'll answer that," said Melvin sneezily as he swooped in front of the cameras. He looked quite silly, especially with some drapes around his neck. "I, Big Melvin, fought those monsters with my mighty superpowers," Melvin fibbed. "And then I destroyed them with my super smart brain." "No, you didn't," said Harold. "You weren't even here," said George. "Don't listen to those guys," said Melvin. "I, Big Melvin, am the real hero here." Melvin flew above the 2 defeated Robo Boogers and used his new laser eye beams to burn the letters B and M in front of the dead creatures. "Just like Zorro," said Big Melvin, "I shall sign my initials all my heroic handiwork. From now on, whenever you see a BM, you think of me." "That was funny," said George. "BMs always have made me think about you." Then Big Melvin flew over to Captain Underpants and grabbed him by the arm. And then he rambled on about how he was going to defeat Captain Underpants or something like that. "I command you to bow down to me," said Big Melvin. "Never," said Captain Underpants. "You shall bow down to me," Melvin yelled. "I shan't," said Captain Underpants. And then said Big Melvin as he untied the drapes around his neck, "You will feel the power of my wrath." Chapter 26, The Final Showdown. I know it's called The Drapes of Wrath, but I'm just going to call it Final Showdown. Big Melvin held his drapes tightly, then smacked Captain Underpants into tissue with them. "I command you to deny underwear and accept the power of Big Melvin." "No way, Bubs!" cried Captain Underpants. Big Melvin smacked Captain Underpants again. "Smack! Bow down to me," he commanded, "and I shall spare your life. Go jump off a dock, Pedro," said Captain Underpants defiantly. Then, suddenly out of nowhere, George and Harold returned to the scene, out of bed, and hiding something behind their backs. "Hey, Big Melvin," shouted George, huffing and puffing. What? Yelped Big Melvin. Harold pulled the Combinatron 2000 out from behind his back and aimed it at Melvin and Captain Underpants. You shouldn't leave your toys lying around in the library, bub, George said slyly. Melvin shrieked in horror as Harold pulled the trigger. Buzz! Zap! A blinding flash of pink light shot out of the Combinatron 2000, surrounding Big Melvin and Captain Underpants and squishing them together. George had reset the controller to combine them both, transfer the superpowers back to Captain Underpants, then separate them. I sure hope this works, said Harold. Me too, said George. Chapter 27. To make a long story short, it did. Bonk. Chapter 28. With big underwear comes big responsibility. Big Melvin fell to the ground with a thud. Immediately, Captain Underpants began floating in the air. Hey, cried the good captain. I've got my superpowers back. I knew that underwear would never let me down. George turned and zapped the Channel 4 Eyewitness new team with the Forget-Your-Mouth 2000. Flash! And they just became like confused and oblivious to what just happened in front of their very eyes. Everyone was happy, except Big Melvin, I should say. Wow! Sobbed Melvin. I want my superpowers back. Ah, quit your whining, bub, said George. You've been a total jerk for the last 2 books. You should just be happy that you didn't get your commie pence. Chapter 29. Commie pence see me sometime. Soon a crowd gathered and began to recognize Melvin. Hey, cried Miss Anthrop, that's the little squirt who said he was going to farm my hiney. There he is, shouted a couple of very angry old ladies. That's the little brat who left us up in a tree. He made us lose the big game, said the entire football team simultaneously. Dude, yelled one of the skateboards. That's the little dude who duded our dude board a few dudes ago. Heh asked Melvin nervously. Maybe I'll just go home now. Get him! Shouted the old lady. Ah! Screamed Melvin as he ran away, followed closely by a very large group of very angry people, for a very good reason, too. Chapter 30. Harold's Surprise. Melvin and his angry mob ran into the sunset. Captain Underpants got water in his head because George sprayed him with the water fountain. Then George and Harold started going up the ladder to the treehouse, and Harold became quite fidgety. There's something I need to tell you, George, said Harold. But when George reached the top of the ladder, looked inside the treehouse, no explanation was necessary. Hey, said George, I thought you took Crackers back to his home. I did, said Harold, back to his new home. Harold, said George sternly, we can't keep a pet pterodactyl. Do you know how many crackers they need to eat every day? We could never afford it. I know, said Harold sadly, but look how cute he is. And he's made friends with Sulu, too. All right, said George, but we're taking him back tomorrow. Chapter 31 tomorrow. To make a long story short, George and Harold took Crackers and Sulu back into the purple potty, went inside, and Harold was like, didn't Melvin want us not to use this machine 2 days in a row, said Harold. Yeah, back in chapter 12, starting with the first word and the third line of the second paragraph of on page 77. What exactly did he say? Asked Harold. Beats me, said George. I'm not very good at remembering details. And and then they set the chain for 65 million years ago. And then the purple potty started doing something that it had never done before. Something is very wrong, cried Harold. Suddenly the entire room lit up in an explosive burst of lightning, and the purple potty began to disappear in a whirlwind of electric air. The only thing that could be heard above the chaotic clatter was the sound of two terrified voices screaming into the unknown abyss. "Oh no!" screamed one of the voices. "Here we go again!" screamed the other. And that's the end of the book. Well, Nomad out. Hey, what's wrong with this thing? Come on.